has been on my back for the last 3 months. Now, for somebody to live in California, we've had 4 meetings together, putting this thing together, along with the committee. And I want to thank him for it. He carried me to lunch last week, and I thought he was carrying me to lunch, but I had to pay for the lunch. But I had begun to wonder, how is he in Brunswick so much and lives in California? He told me he was a pilot. So maybe he borrowed somebody's airplane to fly over here and go back. But I do want to say this to Michael Robinson, Kerry, and I can't remember all of the ladies' names, but I have met with them on 4 different occasions planning this thing. So a lot of work has gone in it. Mr. Keith Cott asked me to talk about a little of the history of Risley, and I think most of you know about it. That was a school I was called to in 1960 as a band director. Stayed there 9 years, and I don't know whether you all remember that we had a fantastic band. They would go down Albany streets, and the trees would just wave like this. In 1870, a white fella raised money to help build a school for black children. It was called Freeman's School, then Colored Memorial. Then we had St. Athanasius down on the end of Albany Street. They had schools for black kids. And then Seldom Institutes. So all of these schools was woven into Risley in 1954. This school has produced approximately 7 college presidents. It was a great school. I'm not saying that because I taught there 9 years, but it was. We produced some great, outstanding students. You have 2 of them in this class that I keep in mind almost 50 years later, and that's Kerry and McDonald. These 2 young men were instrumental in 1970, I think it must have been 71, in keeping our school from exploding. Now, Risley had always had great students, same as Glen Academy, same as Brunswick High School. But out of Risley, we have state championships, football, basketball. Yep. Out of Risley, we had some of the greatest doctors, lawyers. There's nowhere hardly I can go in America where somebody won't come up to me and say, "Hey, Mr. Griffin, you was my guidance counselor." I was way up in Atlanta several years ago in the dining room, and here this fella came out with a big old tall white hat, was the chef. Now, he was at Risley, but he was very, very slow. So I put him in commercial foods. And now he's up there making $120,000 a year in Atlanta. So Risley has produced some very fine students. I want to show you one thing. The power of class reunions, most of you don't even have an idea. And I'm going to show you what the power of class reunions look like. In 2016, a group of folk, they were alumni from Risley, got together and said, let's have an all-city, all-class reunion. All the classes that have gone through Risley. They started planning. In 2017, they got it organized and sent out letters and everything. And this is the result of an all-points bulletin for Risley class reunion. 25 classes showed up at this reunion. Then we had 5 people who everybody had died in the class except them. They sent a picture of themselves to go in this book. And I just want to raise it up. These are the classes, and like I say, most of them, half of them had deceased, been dead. These are all of the classes right here, And it was so well organized, they started with the class of 1950 and came up the line. And this is what the book looks like. I thought it was an excellent job. These are the classes. I know all of you can't see this, but I just want to give you an idea. It was humongous. And then here are the people that Risley, some of the people that Risley had produced. This is Colonel Fuller. Took the GED at Risley. And Colonel Fuller has 2 sons that are lieutenant colonels. This is Dr. Blake, president of Miles College, graduate of Risley High School. This is Dr. Dennis, PhD, Morehouse, and eventually became president of Albany State College. This is Dr. Jerry Hardy. He's still here in the city. His family, it was Reverend Hardy, and his mother, both of them are deceased. But this graduate has been president of 4 different colleges all over the country. So I wanted you to see this since you want to know the history. This is Dr. Perry. Perry taught with me for about 4 years. He was awesome. All the kids were afraid of him because he was no nonsense. Yeah. See, he may take the chair behind the desk and throw at you if you were in that class playing around. And this was the principal of Risley High School just prior to my coming to Risley in 1960. This is Dr. Troop Cornelius. He left Risley. And went to Ohio State University in 1949. Also taught in grad school at AU, that's Atlanta University. And most of you probably remember Coach Lomax. If you don't, this was a legend here at Risley High School. He left Risley and went and took the presidency of Fort Valley State College. So I showed you this to let you see the power of class reunions. Risley has a history of great men. Now, I want to just talk about one of them, and that is Reverend Timothy McDonald. I trained Reverend Timothy McDonald along with the late Reverend E.C. Tillman in politics and being active in the community. He left Brunswick High, went to Berry College, and there to Atlanta, and took over Operation Breadbasket and made history. He was here last night. I was happy to see him. And that brings me to the point before I sit down, because Keith Cock gave me 10 minutes. And plus he told me I couldn't eat until we speak, so I'm gonna hold him to that 10 minutes. But I want to share something with you that most of you probably have never heard. Had it not been for Kerry and Timothy McDonald, Brunswick High School would have blown up during 1971 and 72. You don't have no idea of the hidden meetings and people like Denzel Sullers, Coach Baba was here last night, Charlie Aldag, math teachers. And we had the most wonderful principal in the world. I could stand here all night and tell y'all about Bud Couch. But Mr. Couch told me, thank you, he deserves that. In fact, we gave him a reception here in Brunswick, over on the island, about 5 years prior to his demise. But he was a wonderful counselor. But here's what Mr. Couch told me with some others. This was the first year of school integration. And I'm going to tell you, this thing was something else. Keep in mind that here we are coming together for the first time, most of it in your lives. Now, we weren't the first school to desegregate, but this is what I'm just talking about, Brunswick High School or Glenn County. Mr. Couch said this, and you know he can talk to you where you know he's sincere. He look like he's frowning at you. He said, I want this thing to work. And do you know for 2 years, people like Dizzle, Coach Barber, all of the male teachers, we were in the parking lot at Brunswick High School from 7:30 until the classes took in, because boys was bringing chains, baseball bats, and other weapons in their trunk. And we were there to stop it. Now, the football players, blacks and whites, they helped us to make sure this thing worked. And that's why you all didn't hear none of that. But that's what we did for 2 years. That was every day. And then you go to your duties. And I'm going to tell you, you all had to be some strong folk to go along with it. Because we prevented and we curbed riots, fights, gang wars, and everything. The men did this. And we used the football team to help us, blacks and whites. Because Mr. Couch said, I want this to work. And he made it work. That man had more wisdom. I learned more from him than I did, I think, in college. Because he loved Brunswick High and the students. And in closing, I want to say this, and I may offend some of you. I don't mind that. There was no Risley High School in 1972. Now, when I talked to Keith Cox, Michael and them, because like I said, I've met with them 4 times in putting this together. I don't know why they drugged me along with them, but I was right there. We are one class, 72 Brunswick High Pirates. Now, I think it's very good that, and I think most of this came from Keith Cox, to recognize the history of Risley. It was a great school. But you all are not graduates of Risley. And that's what we need to focus on in the future. We are pirates. I was snatched from Brunswick, Risley, but it didn't bother me because the check followed me. But now, I know that was kind of facetious, but I want y'all to know the impact this had on you, and mostly on black kids. See, because you all didn't lose nothing. This happened all over America. They shut down black schools. I had that experience myself, long before integration. You see, my school changed from Booker T. Washington, that I love, to Tunis Street. Who ever heard of Tunis Street? And my whole senior year, all of my brothers and sisters called us tuna fish. But I tell you what we did, just what these people did here. We kept Booker T. Washington in our heart. And that's what I'm asking you all to do. We are Brunswick High Pirates. Let's just be pirates. You know, if you want to learn some history, go to the library or call me. I can give it to you. You see, but this has been a fabulous thing, and I want you to know that Keith and them put a lot of work into this reunion, and I'm proud of them. But you all have no idea how much we use Kerry and Timothy McDonald in trying to talk to the students at Brunswick High School during 71 and 72, because it was awful. And some other schools in this community called hell, whether y'all know it or not. We had schools where teachers wouldn't sit in the same lounge together. See, but y'all didn't know anything about this, and you didn't need to know. You see, but keep your class together. Be strong in it. In fact, this may be an idea that you all need to bring up from the Brunswick High. And I don't miss a class reunion. Anytime I'm invited, I'm there. I've been to Sea Island, St. Simon's Island, Jekyll Island with classes. And I want to say this to the African American students. This is the largest group I have ever seen at an integrated setting like Brunswick High and Glenn was. And in closing, I want to say this. I was so happy seeing some of you. And like I said, a lot of you I see in everyday life. You know, I go carry my car to be serviced. That's one of our students. I go to the doctor, one of the nurses. Hey, Mr. Griffin, you know, it's a good feeling. So continue to keep your class together. And like I say, I've had a serious talk with Mr. Keith Cox. Let's be Brunswick High Pirates. That's all we need to be. Thank you very much.